And we're live.
Thank you very much.
Well,
I'm pulling faces here.
we'll do a whole video of funny faces at some point, right? Welcome to welcome to everything is attitude. Not everything. Almost messed it up, but I caught myself. How are you, Rosemary? We have a special guest on the couch with you. I see.
I know I'm getting to be a little bit more like Graham Norton this week. I had two guests on yesterday and I've got a guest on this evening. So the only difference is my couch is not red. Uh, because he has a wide span camera and we've got to snuggle up really, really tight here. But anyway, hi, everybody. Welcome to Everything is Attitude. Welcome to my co host, Al Pisano. And we're saying hello tonight to my new assistant who, how long have you been working for me now? 5 weeks? Is it 5 weeks or 6 weeks?
I think next week is 2 months.
It can't
No, I
possibly
think it is.
be. Is it really?
I think
it
it is.
All right, then 7 weeks. The time flies when you're having fun. Right, so, and this is Michelle. And Michelle has a very interesting story to tell, Al, because, oh, and hello to everybody out there who's watching. If we have anyone who's watching, so, sorry about that. We're not doing very well today between us, are we? Gosh, anyway.
We'll get in the groove. Don't worry.
Right. I'm going to let Michelle tell her story, but I'm going to give you a tiny bit of a background. Uh, Michelle came to me, she interviewed for the job. I think there were, amazingly, we had over 100 and, well, over, yeah, 120 applicants. And she won out, which I'm thrilled about because she's turning out to be really super. And when she came to me, she already had one job in the pipeline, and she was looking to get a second job. She's that kind of a person, just to give you a heads up, who will juggle jobs and have at least three or four, if not six or seven, going all at once. Perhaps I'm slightly exaggerating,
but I've got 4 in class right now.
That's four jobs and an online course that she's doing as well. So, that boggles the mind. It's sort of, not too long ago we had somebody, I can't remember if it was on the Spirit World Sees All show that we have on YouTube or whether it was on this show, but we had a gentleman who was saying that he couldn't get a job and no matter what, and he'd been out of work for 2 or 3 years. And I'm hoping for all of you out there who are struggling in that area, or all of you out there who are hurting because you've been in accidents or you've had injuries of one sort or another, I'm hoping that this show this evening with Michelle is going to help you and to give you a little bit of inspiration. So I'm handing over to Michelle. Michelle, why don't you tell us your story?
Okay, well, the background on me is last September, my husband and I were in a motorcycle accident and I broke the neck of my hip. They told me that I would be out of work for at least a year, if not longer, and that I would never be able to go back to what I was doing. And I was working in the medical field. I had been for 20 years. So I did my recoup time. 5 months ago, I got married to my now husband.
That's you had the accident in November, right?
In September.
September.
I had the accident in September.
October, November, December. What month did you get married?
February. 2nd to the 8th.
So it's like
6 months.
So 5 or 6 months after the accident, you were married.
Up until the time I got married, I used a walker and a cane. They told me it was going to be a very long time before I could walk without either one of them. The day of my wedding, I walked down the aisle with no walker, no cane.
That's after 6 months. Not quite 6 months.
September to February.
Yeah.
And then in June, I decided that I was done sitting on my couch. I couldn't do it any longer, that I had to find something to do.
In other words, you got bored. Is that right?
I
You were
was
bored.
incredibly bored. I've always been a go-getter, and I started working these little contract jobs that I could do from home from my computer. I found Rosemary's ad. I didn't even honestly read it. I just, something said to click it, so I clicked it and applied. I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into when I signed on here. But now I work for Rosemary, plus I work for 4 other people. One is a brand new one I'll be starting in 2 weeks, where I work from home for the most part. I make decent money. I help support my family. I've got 2 girls at home. And
A teenage girl and an 11-year-old, right? Or
yes, I
soon
have
to be 11-year-old.
the 11-year-old she'll turn 11 next month. And my oldest one will be 14 in January. And my husband, who works like crazy hours too and sleeps all day because he does all overnights, which is part of the reason why I had to get out of the house for a little while, is he was tired of me waking him up. And I'm going to school for real estate, and I'm just booming all over.
What do you think, Al? I'm exhausted just listening to this.
Yeah.
Are you exhausted just listening to this?
Yes, definitely, definitely. So I would love to know how you took what is really debilitating, right? I mean, you couldn't do anything for a number of months.
Mm-hmm.
And number one, how you didn't let that get you down, right? Because I think it would let most people would be down about that for a long time. And based on what you're saying, it seems like about 5 months of you, even if I don't know if you were down at that at points or not. But
In the beginning, I was.
what's that?
In the beginning, I was. Because
Yeah.
I was working 14, 16-hour days and running and running and running. And then all of a sudden, I was at a complete stop. I wasn't even allowed to walk myself to the bathroom for almost a month.
And they told you that the recoup time would be at least a year to 18 months, and you did it in 6.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's be clear here just before we go any further, I'm not suggesting anybody out there having a similar accident or worse. I'm not suggesting throw away your walker, throw away your stick. I'm not saying that
I still
because
have mine.
this is not about sort of ignoring medical advice, but let's first of all look at the job situation, right? Because there are so many people out there, and there's so many people who listen to the show, and I get emails all the time. When am I going to get a job? How do I get a job? What am I supposed to do for a job? And I do find that people's attitude is much more about they want a job that they are used to. They want something that they had before. They either were let go, the company went bankrupt, or they were downsizing, or sometimes people just get fired for whatever reason. But a lot of people looking for jobs are looking for jobs in the arena that they're used to, and consequently, if their previous company downsized, then the market downsized. So the jobs are going to be fewer and fewer, less and less. So you really were not able to go back to the job that you did. For how many years were you in that job?
Almost 20.
Almost 20 years. So you had 20 years in the medical profession, 20 years doing that job, and all of a sudden you can't do it anymore because you can't stand, you can't walk properly, and even after you've recovered from the accident, you still couldn't go back there, could you? Because you can't stand.
I still can't tolerate doing the job.
Right. So physically, you mean?
Physically,
you can't tolerate doing
my
the job.
body won't handle it. I won't be able to move for 3 days.
Yeah. So can you talk us through the process? What actually did you do then? Because it seems to be, people listening who don't have a job and are wondering, what can I do to get a job, or what can I try? I mean, you can't go back to the field you're in after 20 years. That's got to be a huge blow. You can't walk properly at this point. So how did you go about starting to look for jobs, work at jobs? How did you go about that? What was the process?
Well, I just decided that it was time to dive into something new, and my husband and I discussed it, and I've always wanted to do real estate, and I had some people that I knew that were in the business, so I talked to them to see what they thought, and I decided I was going to go to school for that, but I wanted to wait till after the wedding in February, and then I would start school. Well, in the process, my poor husband, I was waking him up at like noon, 1 o'clock every day, and he was getting home from work at like 6:30 in the morning. So he was like, "You need to get out of the house. I don't care what you do, but you need to do something to occupy your time because I'm only sleeping like 5 hours a day right now." And I said, "Okay." So I started looking, and I got hooked onto
Where
this.
did you look? What was the
Well,
process?
I
Because
started to look at
people
Indeed.
Indeed.
I started to look at Indeed, and I kind of would flip through there, and we'd go back and forth. And
Indeed is a company that
they're job search.
job search. Okay, all right.
And then
That's good to know.
a girlfriend of mine called me one day and said, "You want to come over and have coffee?" And I said, "Yeah." So I went over to her house and we started talking. And she does they're like contract jobs through Thumbtack, which I know.
So we've got Indeed,
Mhm.
and we've now got Thumbtack. So
Mhm.
anybody listening who might want to know where to go for a job, you can find them online, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
Okay.
I've got consultations coming out of my ears. My kids are done with me being on the phone all the time. But you pay for job leads, and if it's something that works for you, then you sign on and you do it.
When you say you pay, is it a lot of money to pay?
It's about $3 or $4 a lead.
So every time they give you a job or an application,
Every time something matches up to you, you'll pay for the lead
for $3 or $4.
Mhm.
So even if you're out of work, most people can afford to do that at least twice a week or 3 times a week, right?
Yeah.
To look for a job. Okay.
And I make a nice steady income off of Thumbtack, and I get to work at home in my PJs most of the time.
Not when she's here, she doesn't. But anyway,
No, she doesn't let me.
No, I won't let you. Other than that, now, here you are. You've been in this field for 20 years, and now you're having to completely switch over.
Mm-hmm.
How was that? Were you nervous about that, or did you just grit your teeth about it, or just did you say, "I'm going to do it"? What was your attitude?
In the very beginning, I was pretty depressed about it. It was all I had ever really known. I started in the medical field when I was 17. And so it was just, that's all I've done my whole adult life. And going back now, right after the accident happened, I was pretty upset because they wouldn't release me to go back to work. They wouldn't release me to go back. And I wanted to go back to work so bad. And I got pretty upset. And my husband sat me down, this is right before we got married, and said, "Babe, I don't care what you do. It doesn't matter what job you have as long as you're happy." He said, and realistically, he says, it was time for you to make a change. You were getting unhappy doing what you do. And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, what do you think I should do?" He says, "I don't know. You're the only person that can decide that." He says, "But whatever it is, I'm here with you."
So you were fortunate in that you did have a supportive husband, not necessarily supportive in a financial sense, although he was the breadwinner, but
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't afford really, could you, to have just one person working in the house?
We didn't do too badly. With his income alone, we actually bought a house this past year, right after we got married. We got married in February. We bought a house in April. I started with you in June. It's been tough at times, but
Working for me?
no.
You mean no? I was just
No,
kidding.
You're my vacation. But it's, it gets tough, and you just have to remember that, you have a team. You are a team, and you just move forward together.
So it's obvious to me, I'm going to ask you this question. It's obvious to me the answer, but it's really 2 questions. First of all, do you think you have a positive attitude? And the second question is, How, why have you always had this, or was it the accident that drove you to it, or have you always had this personality that you have?
I've pretty much always had this personality. I did fall into a little bit of a negative Nelly for a little while, but it wasn't getting me anywhere and it wasn't making me feel any better. So I sat down with my kids one day as they were bickering back and forth, and I'm thinking to myself, why are they doing this? Well, they're doing this because mom's negative right now, too. And I sat down with the girls and said, okay, let's have a discussion about things. And they said, okay. And I said, we need to change, and we need to change all the way around. It's not just mom, it's not just you guys. Um, this isn't working for us. So we need to do something else. And we started this little game where we told each other good things about what we thought about each other. Little good things to what we thought about each other and how we could do things better together. And it really changed our whole outlook on things.
So you were encouraging your girls to look at the positives and to find good things, and in turn that boosted you and made you even more positive, right?
Yes.
So, Al, what do you think so far to this story?
Well, I love that you had sort of that moment where you realized that, Michelle. And I think everybody has those moments, but to sustain that, which it seems like you almost created a habit, right, with you and the girls to sustain that. Yes.
Very much so.
And do they do it on their own now? Do they say
Yes,
what they do? Okay,
very much.
that's great.
You know, they're still sisters. They still bicker. You're never going to get away from that. But it's my oldest one looked at my younger one today and says, you know, I really do like your smile. It is very pretty. And the little one just smiles even bigger and, oh, that was really nice of you, you know, and just kind of talks back to her. And then they, you know, you touched my remote, you ate my cereal. And then they go back to normal for a little bit. But it makes each other's day when they do little things like that for each other. And I'm constantly telling my girls, you know, I wake them up in the morning going, hello, gorgeous. How are you today? Come on, it's time to get up. And they're like, mom, it's still summer. No, not in our house. Come on, get up. Let's go.
So you've always been this positive person then?
Yeah, pretty much so.
Were your parents positive? Where did it come from, this? It's because I have to say that when you came for the interview, she sort of bounced in and the smile completely lit up the room, and I thought, she'll do for me. But you know, where did it come from? Do you suppose?
I guess I get it from my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was very positive, always laughing, always smiling. I lost her at a young age, so I just try to instill everything that she taught me on a regular basis into my life.
So you're honoring your parent, you're honoring your mother by being what you feel that she would want you to be. Is that right?
Yes and no. I'm honoring my mom because I'm trying to be the best I can be, and that's what she would want for me.
Right. I think I said that, but probably not as succinctly as you did.
Okay.
I think it's, you know, great when you're brought up in a household where everything is positive. I think it's really great. But we all know, I mean, I certainly was not brought up in a household where everything was positive, but somehow or another, I think with my determination to, you know, having learned from my parents how not to be, I determined that I was not going to be that negative, that, you know, always complaining person. I was going to be positive. So I had that boost because I was determined I was not going to be like my mother, which I'll always be grateful to her for showing me the downside of negativity. But what do you do? Because we all know, and this question's for you as well. What kinds of things, we all have those down times. We all have those times when we just feel ourselves slipping down that slippery slope. and it gets worse, and some people can't actually halt it. Some people have a real struggle. What do you do, Alan? What do you do when you're finding yourself going down the slippery slope of negativity? What do you do? What would be part of your recipe?
I lean on um, friends and family that I know could say, get a grip and move on.
That would be me.
like Rosemary. Um, but I also try to recognize the patterns and trends that when I do start spiraling a little bit. Past day or two was that for me, and just to kind of be able to lift yourself up, and hopefully have enough support from, like I said, friends and family to
Yeah, but
arena.
you're talking about lifting yourself up. What is the actual action, or what are the actions that you take? That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to help people who are listening to Michelle's story, thinking, "Wow, she's something," which I actually think she is, because she exhausts me. I have to tell you, all this positivity and all this work, and she has a great work ethic. But what are the actions when you find yourself going downhill? What are the actions you take? Michelle, what are the actions that you take? Can you think of any actions that you might take when you find yourself in that place?
I actually pull myself aside from everything. And I just kind of sit back and I breathe a little bit and I recheck my perspective on things. Because, sometimes when you get down and you start really thinking about where you're at right now, you don't think about the other good things that have happened. I broke my hip. I was really down about that. And I went into a little bit of a depression. And then my daughter said to me one day, "Mom, I'm really glad you broke your hip." And I went, "What?" She goes, "I didn't want you to get hurt." She goes, "But you stopped long enough to spend time with us. You stopped long enough to see us, to spend time with us, to be here with us." She goes, "And we missed you, and we didn't realize we missed you."
Wow, well, that's a good wake up call right there.
When you think about the different perspectives of what you're dealing with, a lot of the time it's not going to be as bad as it seems.
Yeah. And trust our children to show us the way, right?
Absolutely.
Al, what
Yeah, I
action
mean,
do
a,
you take?
a similar thing happened with me with actually my Justin, my middle son. He looked at me, and as you know, Rosemary, I had a little bit of an issue this week with the shoulder injury, and he looks at me last night. He's laying with me, and he says, "Dad, I think we should just take some time, you and me, and we'll do something together because I think you need it." So, um, and to Michelle's point too, I think that's the biggest thing. Once, which I started to say earlier, once you notice those patterns and those trends, like I just tell myself, it's not. Don't make a big deal of it, like I tend to do. It's not so bad. Somebody always has it worse. The same kind of thing. And again, that perspective, I think, is the biggest ingredient for me as well. Just to say, listen, get a grip. It's not so bad, and then lift yourself away from and out of that spiral. I think you said to me one time, you don't hear coal miners complaining, right? When you don't have your life is such that you can't complain, you don't complain, right? So there's always someone who has it worse, and I think that perspective helps me a lot to just shift, and it's an active decision, right? Just to shift your mindset in the moment, and then if you feel yourself going back down, shift again and say, "Don't go there. Move forward and be positive about things."
I think that talking about the miners reminds me of actually what I do when I find myself going down the slippery slope. I sing. If I'm feeling miserable, or if I'm having a rough day, or I'm being negative about something, the miners, the Welsh miners, particularly in the UK, as if they had an accident, if people were trapped down the mines, for instance, and that to me is one of the worst days you could possibly have. They would sing because the Welsh sing anyway, and my grandmother's Welsh, so I have my grandmother perhaps to thank for my voice and my good strong lungs. But I think part of the the one of the ingredients in this, how can we turn a bad situation into a positive situation, is we need to look and see what actions we actually can take to force ourselves out of it. First of all, we have to recognize that we're in a funk, or that we're in a depression, or that it's getting us down. So recognition of the issue is one important ingredient, but then the actions that we take. And I sing. I just sing. And I have been known to cry and sing. I've been known to be singing a joyful song, a happy song, with tears pouring down my face, because I am determined I am not going to cry anymore. So I think that sometimes you have to find the action, and with you two, you've got your kids to push you along and boost you along, and my daughter used to do the same with me. Of course, your kids are younger, and my grandson also, of course, he'll get me out of a funk like that. He just makes me smile. Just thinking about him makes me smile. So I think that what we need to encourage people to do, or try to help people to do, is to find those things that make us smile,
Joyful things, right?
that can force us.
Yeah.
Singing is one thing for me, and I just do sing. I was with Michelle's youngest daughter yesterday, and we were making moussaka. Was it good, by the way?
It was delicious.
Did you eat it all?
Pretty much. I left a little bit and I took it to Dustin at work.
I never had any of it. Anyway, and it was a huge pot. But anyway, thank you very much for that.
I told you I'd bring you some.
Well, you ate it though. Anyway, I said to Michelle's daughter Gwen, we were sort of mixing and stirring, and I said, "Oh, come on, let's sing." So we were singing a little bit, and I've been with another couple of kids, 11-year-olds, this morning, and as we're mixing the cake and making the cake, I said to them, "If we sing as we're mixing, this cake is going to taste better because we're putting joyful energy into it." So finding those things that work for you, and then even if you grit your teeth and force yourself to do it, which I've done many times, you do it. You do it because the only other option is to just sink into that awful, awful place that is so hard to get out of. Would you agree with that?
The only thing I would add to that, Rosemary, is like for me and Michelle, I don't know if this happened to you as well. Sometimes what's going on impacts those joyful things. So for me, a few of the joyful things that for me are working out, playing softball. Like, so for me, an injury that is debilitating in a lot of ways impacts that. So I think you need variety, or don't get stuck on the things that you think make you happy. Be open to other things that may make you happy, or you may find joy in too, because that in itself, for me this week especially, kind of got me a little bit even more in that spiral, because that was my outlet. Like working out is my outlet, and I was limited in what I can do, but I still walked and I still biked and still did things that I was able to do. So you have to have those alternatives as far as finding happiness and joy to get yourself out.
I think looking at forcing yourself to make a list of the good things that are going on in your life forces you to understand that life is not so bad for you at all. Michelle, what do you think? I mean, what do you think about what I said about finding those things that force you into smiling? I mean, I cannot think of my grandson without a smile creeping over my lips. I cannot do it. It's not possible because he's so adorable.
Well, most days that's how I feel about my kids. There are some days when I'm like, okay, I need a break from you right now.
But naturally.
Well, teenage girls are rough.
Yeah.
But with me, when I was hurt, everything that I wanted to do, I couldn't do anything.
Right.
I love to cook.
Like,
I couldn't be in the kitchen.
You got an injury at softball. I mean, imagine being in Michelle's position where you can't even get up to go pee without having somebody help you, right?
Yeah. I was forced to live on my couch for 3 to 4 weeks because nobody would let me even walk through the house to get to my bed. I was like, "Are you guys really? I can get to the bed." They're like, "Yeah, but what happens when you go to get off of it?"
Right.
So, all right, you win, you know. So I did find that I got to read more, which I guess I took for granted because that's not something I always got to sit down and do. And I colored a lot. And I learned how to play the PlayStation, which only lasted while I was couch bound. And then once I was good, I was like, okay, I'm done with this. So, I mean, there are little things, and I liked the time that I got with my husband when he was trying to teach me how to play the PlayStation because he's a gamer and I'm not a gamer. I have no idea what he's doing. You know, and he'd look at me and go, "Okay, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know. You didn't tell me what I'm doing."
But you found fun where you could have found misery.
Oh, absolutely. We found a couple games for the PlayStation that we could do with the kids because I couldn't lean across to play a board game. I couldn't sit up at the table to play cards. So we found different things that we could do with the kids to interact with them more and spend more time with them. And the memories that I've made since the accident are completely priceless.
So you focused on the things you could do versus the things you couldn't do,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really a key thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but Al, here's the thing. You were focusing when you injured your shoulder, and I know you've been in a lot of pain, but so were you, right, Michelle? You were in pain.
Yeah.
Or were you just stuffing the drugs down you?
Actually, I only took my painkillers for about a week. And then after that, I would only take them when I would try to go to bed.
She's tough, you see. She's
I
totally
don't-
tough.
I don't like to take painkillers.
No,
I don't even
no,
like to take ibuprofen.
No.
So for me, it was, then it was only at bedtime.
But you're similar to that. You don't like to take too many drugs, right, Al? But
No.
you allowed the injury plus one or two other things to bring you down this week.
For a time, yeah.
What do you think, short of my saying get a grip? What do you think, which I did do actually, but what do you think, like, if this happens next week or the week after, whenever it is, or next year or something, what do you think, having listened to Michelle, has she inspired you in any way? Are there things that you feel that you could actually actively be doing and being, and sort of that you didn't do because you found yourself on the spiral?
I think I do it. I'm just slower to do it, and I think the process that, like, the time it takes me to get out of it is getting quicker because um, like, I know there's no point to it. I know that it's a bad place for me to be, and um, I'm not happy doing it. So my stubbornness helps too, and I'm just like, I'm not going to stay there or be there, and probably hurts me with injuries because I end up doing stuff that I'm probably not ready to do too. But um, I
Yeah.
just I kind of refuse to be in that spot, and I leverage the stubborn part of me to just push through a lot of
And then you make it worse.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better though. Honestly, sometimes if you let yourself succumb to like nagging stuff or nagging injuries, it's worse in ways too, rather than push through it. Right?
I'm having one or two little issues. I hope I'm not having trouble at your end, but I'm having one or two little issues with my little computer thing here.
No, you're good.
I'm a bit nervous that I'm going to be blanked off. So before we do, and if I suddenly cut off, it's been great and so on. But let's have do we have any comments, Al?
We don't have a lot today, but we have a couple people that chimed in. We have Philip or Philippe. Hello, with much respect from Australia.
Hi.
Laurie is here. Nice. I noticed raising an only child and observing him play with another only child that the dynamics were really different. They seemed to have more respect between them than kids who had sibling. Was an interesting observation. She said, my son was a real character, so I probably would have pulled up my hair out had I not figured out what Michelle had figured out. And she used to sing, Laurie again, Old MacDonald had a farm purposely off key at the top of her lungs in the morning to make her son laugh.
Okay.
That's it. That's actually all. We have someone wrote something in Italian, it looks like something about love something or other.
Well, we love all of you, but English only, please. We, So, Michelle, I'm a bit nervous about this little machine cutting out on us. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the people out there who are struggling or who have issues? What would you say to people, understanding that they're not you, first of all? They don't perhaps have that same positivity that you do. Is there anything that you can say to people out there that you feel might hopefully inspire them and give them the push that they need to either look for another job? We've got Indeed, and we've got, what was the other? Thumbtack. I'm sure there are lots of other things that where people go to. I mean, can you give our listeners any help or advice as far as finding that positivity?
Well, I think the best thing that you can do is just step back from your situation and look at everything around you and see what you can find that's good in the situation. With me, there was a lot of bad, and there was a lot of very upset days, and there was a lot of crying. I was very upset for a long time. But when I finally started picking out the good parts of what was going on, it made everything change.
Right. So what you're saying is step back, take a breath. It's very interesting because we're doing this lesson with our online course at the moment. We're doing there is a lesson. You didn't know that, right?
So no, I have no idea.
And it's teaching people to step back from a situation, to take a breath, to step back, to breathe, and then to view the situation from a less, let's say, a less emotional or less personal viewpoint, to sort of take that step back. Because when you're in it, and it's hard to see, isn't it? The wood for the trees. It's hard to see, what we can do. We become so overwhelmed by our issues. So another ingredient in the recipe, and I'm encouraging my students to do that, we're not stepping back and running away from the situation. We're not stepping back to ignore the situation. We're not stepping back and leaving the situation alone. We're simply taking a breath and stepping back so that we can view the situation that is going on, and we can handle it in a better way and in a better place. Would you say that that's what you did? Were you stepping back so that you could take a breath and handle that?
I actually stepped myself back, took a breath, and said to myself, what can I think of as good from this?
Right.
I needed to be able to find the exact points that were good beneficial for me to help turn it around for me.
I know that people think I'm a bit crazy when I say, because I didn't have a great home life, I didn't have a great upbringing. But boy, did it ever teach me a lot. And I will always be grateful to my parents. Now, people think I'm just saying it. They think that I'm saying it perhaps because they think I should say it. I don't know. But I actually firmly appreciate all of those lessons that my parents gave to me. My mother was a miserable creature all of her life that I can remember. And I am so grateful. I feel very sorry for her. Don't misunderstand me. I feel very sorry for the situation she was in. But I am so grateful that I had that experience. I was on the receiving end of that. Because truthfully, it really did teach me how not to be. And when you know how not to be, the next step is to figure out, if I know how not to be, the next question is, well, how do I want to be then? And that's when you can start to be more positive, and that's when you can start to see clearly, okay, well, first of all, I don't want to be miserable. So what do I do about that? I sing more. I don't want to be that person who's always depressed. What do I do about that? I look for the good in life, and I strive to look for the good in life.
I would also, Rosemary, I would also add, because thinking of people that either didn't have a positive upbringing or aren't inherently positive, like, you think when you're in the moment, you get down about what the situation you're in at that moment, but you also get down. For me, for example, with my shoulder, like I reconstructed one of my knees. I had 3 surgeries on my knees. I was there where I couldn't move, and it was debilitating, and it took me over a year to recover. So for me, I started thinking, if I need surgery on the shoulder, what is it going to mean for me for the next year? So I had to say, listen, stop. I don't even know what it is yet. I have to focus on what is in front of me and nothing beyond. And if it is surgery, it's surgery. There's nothing I could do about it. I'll deal with that on a day by day basis. And having, because people will get, like you said, overwhelmed, not just with the current situation, but also with looking at what is possible or potentially going to happen moving forward. And I go through, I'm starting another new job in the next week, and what if I have to have surgery, and how am I going to do both? Like, so those are the things that I started doing again that contributed to the spiraling. But at some point I said, I got to worry about what I have to do right now. And then if that happens, I'll deal with it when it comes. So not letting yourself get to that point and overwhelming yourself even more is important.
Well, I have someone who's very, very close to me who is continually saying, but what if this? But what if that? But what if this happens? And what if that happens? And it's always the negative.
Right.
And there are some people who really struggle to look beyond that, or to say to themselves, oh, for goodness sake, stop anticipating the bad and just simply take a step at a time. Would you agree with that? Take
Yeah,
one step
absolutely.
at a time. I think people will want to know, and you can say anything you like here, just be as honest as you can. I know you've got four jobs and you're going to school. Anyway, so people will want to know what it's like working for me. I know that people are going to be saying, and here you are on camera, so you can say anything you like, good, bad, or indifferent.
I love working for you. When I come into work, I don't feel grumpy. I feel like this is a safe place for me to come, that I feel happy here. I feel content here. And it gets me away from those teenage girls for a little bit. They're a little rough most of the time, except for when I got to bring them with me, apparently. But
And I feed you.
she feeds me almost every day. She's constantly asking me, "Do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this?" But this is my vacation time. Is when I come here.
But
it's my easy time.
I think it's really good that going back to work, and one of the reasons was because I know people really want to know. But the second reason, I think, is this: when you get yourself a job, especially if you've been out of work for ages and ages, if you're in a job that you A, don't like, B, can't do, C, is too stressful, or whatever it is, that's when life really, really spirals out of control. You have to at least like what you do, and you have to at least like the people that you're working for. So I'm going to say, and I know that so many people say, well, I can't do that. I can't be without work. I can't be without a job. I'm going to say, take a leaf out of Michelle's book, because when you're forced out of a job, you can find something new and something better, right?
Yes, very much
and
so.
something that suits you. Now, fear holds us back a lot of the time, doesn't it, Al? Fear, and for the fear of the what ifs, and what if I don't make enough money for this and that and so on. But if we spend a good more than half of our life, maybe 2/3 of our life, we spend at work. The majority of us. that means that if you're in a place which is negative, or in a place that you just simply don't like it, or it just doesn't suit you, the energy is not your kind of energy, you can try and make it better by increasing your energy, or making, you sort of changing your mindset about it. But if the job is really awful and you really, really hate it, then don't be afraid you don't think that if I leave this job, what am I going to do? Because things do have a way of turning up. When one door closes, another one opens.
You have to look for it, though.
Yes, yes. And I've often said to people, look, you want a job. It's not going to happen if, well, I've tried and I've looked for this and I've gone for that. Well, what they mean by trying is they've maybe applied once a week, or they've looked for jobs in their own comfort zone. And try something different. Don't be afraid to try something different. The only thing that can happen is you fail, so you then get something else and you try again. There are so many jobs out there, aren't there, if you look for them? And Michelle,
there are a lot.
Yeah. So so don't let fear hold you back either, and get out of a job, get out of an environment that makes you miserable, because life is way, way, way too short. I've spoken to far too many people who have died having massive heart attacks because they were stressed at work, and what is the point in that?
And a lot of times you force a change, or you do something drastic to change your life, and you won't really understand how miserable you were in that old
Okay.
environment until months, a year, 2 years out. You don't realize it, because you don't have that objective perspective till you're away from it for a while.
Do we have any more comments?
We don't. We have a couple more in Italian. Laurie says, "Good job, Michelle. Nice to see you."
Laurie, my go-to song was Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. When I would get really going, I would force myself to sing it out loud, because that's how everybody knew I was really upset and I was getting annoyed, and they'd leave me alone so I could be in my bubble.
I actually don't know what Mr. Rogers, whatever that is. I've no idea.
Mr. Rogers is incredible. What an incredible guy too. He's
really.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
Okay. That's so funny. I don't know what my go-to song is. When I was in Vermont, I had 70 acres, and I put trails through the woods and so on. It was beautiful. And sometimes, and especially sort of late in the afternoon or early evening, I take the dogs out for a walk. And I'm sure that there were occasions when the neighbors heard me, because I have a very powerful voice, but I would sing the loudest I could, because it was like I was on my own, surrounded by the woods and the trees, and I would just blast out, and it made me feel so absolutely great to do it. So whatever it is that you feel that makes you better. I mean, some people like to go in the kitchen and cook, and some people like to sing, and some people like to go and play softball or whatever it is. But whatever it is that brings you out of that depressive state, it does take work, it does take effort, but you can do it. So let's have a look, can we, at the ingredients that we have here?
Sure.
Can we remember any of them?
Yeah, we could start off with Michelle's, her initial, right? The perspective. Yes, Michelle?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Changing your perspective, stepping back is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
You're not stepping back to step up. You're not, when I try to say to my students, when I tell you to step back, I'm not telling you to step away. I'm simply telling you to step back and then view what's going on from a different perspective. And that's a big ingredient. Stepping back, taking a breath, stepping back and viewing from a different perspective. Find actions that you can take, like singing or cooking or whatever else it is, or go for a swim or go walk on the beach, or whatever that is that will bring you out of it. So find those actions.
I would say joyful actions, right, Rosemary? Actions
Yeah,
that bring you joy.
fun,
Yeah,
not
fun,
even
joyful.
necessarily joyful, but just fun things to do,
Mhm.
or go shopping with a friend and have a fun time. I'm not suggesting. There are people, by the way, who go shopping because they think that will help them with their
Retail therapy.
retail. Thank you.
Retail
Retail
therapy.
therapy. It only works in the moment that you're doing it. It doesn't work afterwards. So we're not talking about something that is short term. So when I say go shopping, I'm not talking about necessarily going and buying something, but just go have fun in the mall. Just look around, look at the fashions, look at the people. Sit in a cafe and watch people going by. That's another
We
one.
do that a lot.
Yeah, but so sort of take actions that bring you out of yourself. But nobody can do it for you. You have to do it for yourself.
And stay in the moment, right, Rosemary? Stay in the moment. Don't.
Step at a time,
Yeah.
little step at a time, baby steps, and cut out. This would be a big one of mine. For all of you out there who are the what if this and well, what if the world came to an end? Well, if the world comes to an end, we won't care, will we? We will be off there. We'll be, we'll be doing our own thing somewhere else. Some people, so many people anticipate the worst. Try anticipating the best. Try anticipating, looking at what you have and anticipating the best, the very best. I anticipate living old enough, long enough to see my grandson grow into a man. That's my anticipated thought. He's 6 years old. Will I make it? I'm going to have a jolly good try. So, what's your anticipated goal? Do you have an anticipated goal, Michelle?
Our anticipated goal is actually a combined one with me and my husband, and we want to travel the country on the motorcycle.
Okay. At some point.
Well, once the kids go away.
Yeah. Right. Do you have an anticipated goal, Al?
I just think to be happy and healthy as long as I can and spend time with the kids and then grandkids, if God willing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have this goal. I'm going to live long enough, but healthy enough, because I don't want to live a long life if I'm miserable and unhealthy. But I want to live my life positively, laughing. When I die, this is what I want, another anticipated thought. I want to be laughing my head off. I want to be so joyful that I had such a great and joyful life, which I'm very fortunate that I have had. A great and joyful life with a beautiful daughter and a beautiful grandson, and that my anticipated goal is to see them happy, see them joyful, do the best that I can, and live my life in a positive way. Al, do you want to say any more?
No.
Michelle, I want you to wind up the show. What else do you have to say to anybody out there who's struggling? Do you have anything to say, or
One step at a time.
one step at a time? Yes. And also understand this, and you know this, I'm sure. When you're in a depression or you're in a funk, even though your kids don't seem to be paying attention,
They are.
they know full well that you're unhappy. And if they know that you're unhappy, they'll be unhappy, right, Michelle?
It does affect them greatly.
Right, right. Which is why you sat them down and said, okay, we need to talk. Let's change our attitude. Let's change
Absolutely.
our way of things.
And you didn't hold that in, Michelle, either, which is a big piece too. You talked about what was going on with your kids, your family, and you weren't insular about it, right? You expressed what was going on.
Yeah, it was just, I was sitting on the couch one day, broken hip, leg up in the air, couldn't go to the bathroom, couldn't go do anything, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking around as these kids are just sulking and like stomping around the house, and I'm like, this is my fault. I know that this is my fault. So, come on, let's talk about it. Let's do something else. And since then, from that day on, My 13-year-old kisses me about 175 times an hour if she can get her face on mine. She's constantly telling me she loves me. She comes up, she holds on to me. My little one wants to cuddle all the time. It's just little things that have made a humongous difference in all of our lives.
And if you don't show it, they don't know it. So show your love, show your affection, show that you're trying, even if it's hard. Don't be afraid to communicate to your family, to your kids, to whoever. I'm having a really hard day, but I'm trying. But I'm having to share it because other people can help you too. Would you say that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think we're done with our show this week. I have to tell you that I find Michelle so inspiring and fun to be with, and she's always giggling. Thank you, Al, for being a great co-host tonight. And thank you all of you who are watching, and we hope that we've inspired you. If you have an issue that you would like to talk about, if you would like to come on our show, you can even come on the sofa with me or even sit with Al. You never know. Whatever you want to do. If you prefer to talk but not be seen, we can also do that, right, Al? We can have someone talking on the show without necessarily being seen. So you can do that. Email us, Rosemary. Email Michelle's going to be answering the emails. Email Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com. If you want to know any more about anything, we should be back on Thursday with our Thursday morning YouTube show, which is, if we can get it figured out, which is The Spirit World Sees All. Al and Michelle were struggling this week, but hey, positive thinking. So we should be there on Thursday, and we should be all over the place. I shall be on Instagram, I shall be on Twitter, I shall be on Facebook, and all of that other stuff that is there. And so in the meantime, thank you all for watching. Thank you very much, Michelle, for coming on. You've been a great guest. Thank you, Al, the co-host, and you all know what I'm going to say next. Please, 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 all of you out there, have a very, very blessed day and a fantastic, wonderful weekend. Have a great attitude.